So, today I'm asking the Wheel of Misfortune to help me figure out which two creations I need to merge to make a new monstrous abomination. I see Garfield, Pikachu, Mickey Mouse, Mike Wazowski, a Minion, and Homer Simpson. We're spinning the wheel for the first time, and it picked Mike Wazowski. Let's spin it again and see who it picks next. Garfield. Alright, let's get started. So I begin by making a base with claws and animal legs, and for the eyes, I use these colorful balls. Now I add these ears that move, and with these black stones, I'll make the marks on his body. For his whiskers, I'll use these little balls, and for the tail, I'll use an arm. Let's add some final details, and let's see how this lasagna-loving furball moves. Seems like he's in a good mood. Let's see if he can bust some forbidden moves. Garfield probably would have preferred to be fused with a lasagna, but we're going for Mike Wazowski. Let's start by making a radioactive avocado body and adding monstrous arms and legs. For the eye, I use this big white circle. I start drawing the mouth with some black stones, then finish the eye with some colorful half circles. With these pieces, I make his tongue, and for the teeth, I'll use some spiky hair. Now, I add some final details with horns. Let's see how Mike turns out in the test zone. Let's see if it has some monstrous moves. Honestly, it would have been interesting to fuse it with Sullivan, but since the kitty's not around, we're going to fuse it with Garfield instead. I hope John doesn't mind, and I'm going to call this first fusion Mikefield. So I start by making this sort of pear shape with a giant eye. I give it a mouth and add these legs. Then I start working on the teeth using these stones. And even though for now it just looks like Mike, I'm going to add these arms with claws that'll be part of Garfield's DNA. So to the first head, I add another head with a giant eye. I give it some cat ears, and to make the fusion more watchful, I add some details and a bunch of eyes using these black pieces. I give it some hairs, and for the final touch, I add this tail and more arms. Alright, now let's see how this abominable fusion turned out. They should definitely hire him at Monsters Inc. He could make some serious cash. I love how he moves his eyes. Let's check out those monstrous moves. Oh god. Now, let's move on to the second fusion. The wheel says Homer Simpson, and he's fusing with Pikachu. Let's get to it. I begin by creating a yellow base for Pikachu's body, adding these pieces to make his arms and legs, and then I add these little round feet. For the face, I use these red half circles for his cheeks, combining them with others for the nose, eyes, and mouth. For the ears, I use arms. Yep, looks like a rabbit now. I finish it off with some final details, and let's check him out in the test zone. It's terrifyingly cute, and let's be honest, he's got some forbidden moves. Okay, now let's make Homer. I start with a humanoid base, using these pieces for his pants that will eventually turn blue. I add his feet, then a white semicircle to make his t-shirt. I start working on his face, using a movable mouth and these half circles to make his nose and eyes. I add some ears and, oh god, he mutated into a T-Rex, or better yet, into Homersaurus Rex. Anyways, time to un-Homer her back to normal. I fix his t-shirt and add a neck. With some black stones, I start adding the hair. And let's see how this donut-munching creature does in the test zone. I thought it was gonna turn out worse. Oh god, looks like he's about to break his neck. What's going on? It looks like he's trying to tell me something. Maybe he wants a duff or something. But the only thing we've got to offer around here are nightmares. Better move on to the next fusion. Let's move on to the next FrankenFusion, Pikachu and Homer. And this is gonna be good. I'll start by shaping a body like Pikachu's, but with these hands. And to make it even more disturbing, I'm giving it Homer's face instead of Pikachu's. Oh god. I add the iconic red cheeks, and using these semicircles, I shape the ears. For a special touch, I add some chest hair and side tufts on the head. And since Homer loves donuts, I'm putting a giant donut on his back as a kind of shield. I give it pink frosting and some final details. Let's see how this Franken aberration turned out. There he is, Homerku, the beer rat. Let's see if he's got any forbidden moves. Oh god, that face. Pure concentration. But it kinda looks like he's working out, trying to burn off the beer belly. I think he's asking me for one. Wait, nope. What the heck? He looks rabid. I better get out of here before he goes full electric mode. The wheel has spoken, and now it's Minion time. I start with a yellow base, kind of like a giant yellow jelly bean with arms and legs. I add shoes, then semicircles to form his huge eyes. For the glasses, I shape some cylinders, and then I make the big smile. With geometric pieces, I draw the clothes, adding straps to the glasses and pockets to his outfit. And to give it a special touch, I add the logo on the pocket. Then, using these horns, I make his hair. Now let's see how Minion Carl moves in the testing zone. I don't know what's going on, but he walks like a robot. Let's see if he dances better than he walks. Now let's work on Mickey Mouse. I start with the black base for his body, adding arms and legs. To draw the mouse face, I use lots of these half circles until it looks something like this. For the ears, I use some pieces, and for the hands, I use pieces that will later turn white for the gloves. Combining more half circles, I make his pants, and then add the shoes. Let's see how this bipedal mouse moves in the test zone. Looks like we're in a creepy pasta here. Let's see how it moves. Looks a bit odd, but I actually don't mind it. Oh god. Let's skip ahead to the fusion. And now, to fuse Mickey and the Minion, I'll start by making the base, but in yellow. I add arms and legs, and use this alien-looking hand to create the gloves. Then I give him these shoes, which I'll recolor later. Next, I make pants like Mickey's, and I add some suspenders. Now for the face. I give him one giant eye, but with Mickey's eye color. I add the Minion's goggle and shape a mouse-like face. And to give it a special touch and make it look like the fusion somehow went wrong, I draw this smile with crooked teeth. Oh God! I add the strap to the goggles, and for the final touch, I give him some hair and Mickey ears. And now, let's see how this fusion turned out. I call it Minion, but what is it doing? Apparently, this creature feeds on bananas and cheese it finds in the trash. Let's hope it didn't eat anything expired. And now, after that epic dance, it's time to unleash the final FrankenFusion. And now for the final fusion. All characters combined into one horrible monstrosity. I start with a Minion body, but with muscular arms and sharp claws. The face will have a single eye. Then I add a Homer Simpson t-shirt, Mickey Mouse pants, and cartoonish shoes. To make sure it can drink more beer at once, I give it 3 mouths, adding Pikachu's ears, Mike Wazowski's eyes, and a big eye in the middle of the chest for the final touch. I added eyes on the pants, a Garfield tail, and some final touches. Let's see how this final FrankenFusion turned out. Oh my God, it looks like Tails from Sonic after 30 years of nuclear radiation exposure. I'll call this the Six-Eyed Freak. Let's check out its moves. In the meantime, drop your wildest fusion idea in the comments, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.